So as you all know, we had a quick change because our friends from Russia that were supposed to speak today had a problem and they're traveling. And therefore today, Randir and myself will be speaking about ISO. So I won't waste your time. And I'll share the screen and I will let Randir to begin. So just a minute. Let's see what screen we are sharing. We've lost it. Just a moment. Are we on the right? Here we are. Do you see the screen now?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Randir, I will be helping you. Tell me when to change the slide.
We can see the slides, Maria.
Okay, Randir, please, you may begin.
Thank you, Maria. So, folks, welcome to this session where we are going to talk about ISO 30401. So, I will give you a quick background about these standards. More than the standards, the need for the standards. Most of you are aware of it, why it is required. But I'll just go slightly on this to help you appreciate it again, the need for these standards. And then I'll hand it over to Maria, where Maria will go into the details about the standards, the different elements of it. And then we'll get into the Q&A part as well. So Maria, can you go forward? Go to the next slide. So, okay, before I get into the elements of it, see, certifications per se is important to any field that you look into it. We need to have more than certification, standards are important because standards define a field and help a field to grow, because there are multiple elements that come into when you define these standards with respect to any area of working. And that is where, if you look into any technical product that you're working with, the standards needs to be defined. That is when you have multiple benefits that comes, and that kind of helps the field. So that is where KM also was in a very bad need of a proper standard, right? Let's look into what are those elements that standards is helping us from a knowledge or to evolve this field further. Maria. So one is common understanding and consistent vocabulary. This is very critical. I mean, so though when practitioners across different domains and all that, they talk
Anat,
about.
Can you please make everyone silent? Anat, can you make everyone silent, please? Thank you. Sorry. Unmute yourself, Randir.
Yeah, I'm not muted. So this standard actually helps us with a common understanding, the terminologies that we use, right? When you talk about, say, some of those common terminal knowledge sharing or collaboration, what are those consistent vocabulary? Can we evolve that? I mean, when I say the ISO KM standards has it reached there? No, it is evolving it, but we have taken a step towards evolving consistent and common understanding with respect to vocabulary. This is very important from a field perspective. Next one. Quality of implementation. Now, when I talk about, say, for example, I am implementing a systematic reuse program. Okay. So once you have the standards defined, then it becomes easy for us to evolve or improve the quality of implementation. You can get an external person come and say, okay, you're going as per the defined standard. The quality is how the quality is. So that is another critical piece that is coming up as with the evolution of these standards, right? And the third element, if you look into it, is the compatibility and interchangeability. Now, what does that mean? For example, one easy point that we can talk about is, how do I replace? I mean, I want to hire someone and get someone into my organization, right? I mean, how easily can I make that person understand what KM is? Or when I'm hiring a person, or for example, internally when I'm talking to my leadership team and all these things, right? I mean, we are trying to build a larger organization. How easy it is to make people understand about the different aspects of it. So that kind of a compatibility and interchangeability also comes with it. So across the industry, we are talking in the more or less the same language. That is what it helps from a standard perspective. Maria, next slide. Okay, now let's look into why companies are going for. So the earlier slide I was more talking about the importance of standards, how it is helping KM as a field. KM has been there for more than 30 years, 20 to 30 years, and what was happening was that as a field it was evolving. So, but we didn't have a common structure around which we can talk about knowledge management. And to a large extent, these specific standards have helped us that. Now, as this standard becomes more and more applied and organizations go for it, right? There will be demand for this. I mean, for the way the different certificate, the quality certifications are there. Similarly, there will be a huge demand for this. And for example, if you want to be a vendor for an organization, a client may demand saying that you need to have this kind of certification. So that is a journey towards which we should look forward for these standards to grow. And the next one. And demonstration of excellence. If you want to demonstrate excellence, and this is where right now happening, most of the certifications are happening in this area of demonstration of excellence, right? For example, I've seen most of the organizations that are picking these standards, who are getting certified, they want to show to the world that we are ISO certified organization with respect to knowledge management, and we are managing our knowledge properly, and this gives they are trying to demonstrate across. Now, the last one, the path to excellence. Now, as you go towards continuously improve, right? I mean, you want to define the continuous improvement of your organization. These standards will help you demonstrate that part also. So these are a couple of elements that makes it important for us from a standard perspective, and it is very good from a field that we are having these standards coming. There have been multiple feedback on why standard is required, why it is not required. But if you look into it totality as a field, it is helping the field formalize and grow much further. Okay, and the ISO 30401 standards were published in 2018, and slowly it is picking up. Definitely, these are early days, but the relevance is coming up majorly, and thanks to, I mean, not thanks to, but COVID pandemic, as a result of COVID pandemic, when the KM, the realization of KM is becoming much more that KM is required, the standards will also become equally important for organizations. With those words, I'll hand it over to Maria to talk further about these standards. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Ante, and I will be continuing. Okay, so first of all, what's my connection to the ISO 3041? Like all of us, as a KMer, I'm interested in the standards, but I also had a role as the project manager, the chair that wrote the standard. So I won't go today into each section reading the paragraph and the requirements, because we are sure that A, all of you understand knowledge management, and B, all of you know how to read. But the first thing we want to do is call to action, because we hope that we will convince you that it is good, as Randir said, it is very important that more and more organizations work regarding to the standard. It doesn't matter if they get a certification and they get the stamp or they don't get the stamp, but the more organizations that will work according to the standard, its spirit at least, we will have better KM, more awareness to KM. If organizations will continue improvement in organizations all the time, I can tell you from my experience, I have a company with 40 employees. I knew all the requirements prior to getting the certification, because I was sitting and writing the standard on my computer. Yet, when it turned formal and I had to certify our company, and we want to do it, all of a sudden, everything was formalized. So it wasn't only in our DNA, it was managed and formalized, and every year improved. And every year we were looking for the next step and the next stage. We have already been certified 7 times, 5 with the Israeli standard that was prior to the global standard, and twice with the global standard. And I can tell you that in my experience, it really makes organizations better. It really made us, that we are a KM organization by all the time, part of our DNA, it made us better. So I believe that if all of us will help many organizations take the spirit of it and take maybe the ideas contained, we will all help the knowledge management being in a better place globally. So now let's go into the ideas in the standard. And I will be speaking about three different things. I will give you a high-level understanding looking at the standard. As I said, I won't go into each section and each paragraph. B, I will open the door to what I believe are very important bodies of knowledge that are not requirements and that are included in the standard. And C, I will share the work that we have nowadays on a global implementation team that has something like 15 people, can come every meeting, every 2 weeks we have meetings where we are developing toolkits for helping organizations without any money that have knowledge management, how to know what the standard is and how to apply it with minimal effort. So we'll go through these three topics one by one, and I will start with explaining the ideas of the standard. So Vincent challenged me last week, and Vincent asked me, hey, when I spoke about the document compass, and yes, I had feedback from one of the people, asking if it's only a document compass or an information compass or content compass. And I must agree that, yes, I looked at it as a document compass, but it may be applied, of course, to other types of information and content. So thank you for the feedback. But what Vincent, and I'm going back, what Vincent challenged me, Vincent, when I don't know if you noticed, while I was speaking last week, he said, it could be an interesting idea if we take the document compass, if we take this map, we can call it a concept map or an extended mind map or whatever we decide to call this map, and we should ask ourselves, how would it look if we would apply it to the ISO 3041 standard? And Vincent, I'm not sure even that he was aware to it, that this week we were going to be speaking about the standard. So I took the challenge and I tried to prepare this concept map, and I will show it to you, thereby explaining you how to understand the standard. So first of all, the standard speaks about three things. It speaks about the organization. It speaks about the knowledge management system. Beware, the word system is misleading. And it speaks about the infrastructure that is required for every system. What is a KMS, a knowledge management system? It's not an IT system. It's the overall activities, ways of handling, strategy, governance, all what's into our knowledge management strategy and implementation. And it's called, in the ISO language, it's called the system. So it's the full array of activities, culture, processes, governance, whatever you want, all that have to do and help us have a knowledge management based organization. So let us look at this map. First of all, I had to ask myself, from who am I preparing it? And I decided to prepare it for those who want the requirements. And therefore, you see that the chapters that have nothing to do with requirements, they are the surrounding, as we called them last week, don't get a box. We have an introduction, we have terms and definitions, and we have annexes. We also have a chapter named normative references, but you can look at it as a grayed out chapter because it has nothing to say in it. So therefore, it doesn't even have a hyperlink. So what do we have if these are the surroundings, introduction, terms, and annexes? What do we have in our requirements? We have three types of requirements. We have requirements to do with the organization, how we have to look at the organization, learn the organization, understand the issues that the organization is concerned with nowadays. understand the specific expectations and needs of the stakeholders in the organization. These two speak about the present and understand the risks of opportunities if we're looking at the future. These are the three parts of understanding the organization. What do we need if I'm looking at the bottom of the structure? What do we need? We always need an infrastructure. It doesn't matter if we're now working on a knowledge management system, knowledge management program, or working on risk management or equality management program. They all need to understand the organization and where it stands regarding their issue, regarding their standard, and they all need leadership roles and operations that have to support and have to enable the knowledge management system or the risk management system or the innovation management system, whatever system we bring up. Yet, in our specific standard that speaks about knowledge management, here are the components. First of all, it goes almost without saying, but we have to define our scope. Will it be for the whole organization, or will it be only for a specific unit or division? I was speaking something like a month ago with Amanda. Oh, I forgot to say, in this project where we developed the standard, we have additional friends here, additional colleagues here who are sitting with us today. David Lamotte from France was a member. Ron Young was a member. He will be lecturing in a few weeks. If some of you heard about Nick Milton, he was a member. Ian Fry and Arthur Shelley from Australia were members, and additional many good friends from the knowledge management arena that we all know. So let's go back. So after we have a scope, I was starting to say that I spoke with Amanda, and Amanda said, you know, at the beginning, we decided to test ourselves. So the first year, we defined the scope of the system only for our unit, for our knowledge management unit. We saw that it went well. So the second year, we did it for one division. And now we are preparing ourselves for the whole organization. So it's your call, your decision, what is the scope of the KMS. Of course, the certification is only for the scope. So this also is not, it's part of the KMS, but it's not a box by itself. So we don't give it a box, but it's not important. It's just something that we have to do prior to start our journey. What do we have in the KMS system? First of all, we have our KM policy. What is our policy of handling knowledge in our organization? It has to do with the strategy. Parts of the strategy go into the policy. And of course, it's the way we look at the needs, our decisions, our strategy, our concept of how we are going to handle the knowledge management. This type of document that defines the policy will be prepared only once in a few years. However, every year we prepare objectives, we will prepare a work plan based on these objectives. We have a lot of activities that are covered, and I will speak about it in a minute. And all the time we look at year after year, we ask, what did we do last year and how are we going to improve it for the next year? So we have the policy that is long for the long term, for 3-5 years, maybe it will be refined every year, slightly refined, but it's static, it's stabilized, I would say, not static, but stabilized. And year after year, we define our objectives, and we check how to improve ourselves. Now let's go into the core itself. When we look, you see the core ones, I gave them also an icon. They are the important ones, they are the big ones. So of course, along the way, we have to demonstrate a knowledge management culture. I think this is the only standard in the world globally which gives such emphasis on culture, because culture is non-tangible. It's not something that you can grab, that you can show. And therefore, in most of the standards, people speak about the activities themselves. However, when we designed the knowledge management standard, we told ourselves that at the end of the day, knowledge management's success is mainly dependent on our culture, or it's mainly having a great knowledge management culture, and that will be the drive for everything. So we decided that even though it's not that easy, even though it's not tangible, we will have chapter and we will have requirements that deal with the knowledge management culture. You will find in several places in the document itself, the way I organize the materials here, the concept map, is not one-to-one with the importance of them in the standard, because in standard we are speaking in the ISO language, and here we are starting to bridge between the ISO language and our knowledge management language. However, in addition to speaking about the knowledge management culture, people, we're speaking about people, we look at our KM activities and we try, and the auditors try to see, and we try to prepare ourselves to validate, to ensure that knowledge management covers various aspects, looking at 3 different perspectives. The first perspective is the knowledge development life cycle. What does that mean? That no matter what activities we hold, let's say we have a lessons learned database. So we have means to develop new, to create new lessons, or purchase them, learning from other organizations, or learning them in-house. We have to have terms to means to see that we share them, that we apply them. When they're obsolete, that maybe we delete them or archive them. We have to show in all our activities that we cover the full life cycle of the knowledge development life cycle, starting from its birth till its death, or till its other treatment when it's obsolete. But that is not enough. We have to show also that the knowledge in our organization is all the time transferred, that we have all the time transferring of knowledge. And if I say it, we have here 2 words, convenience and transformation. The reason that we use these 2 words together is because in specific countries, like if I remember, Britain, UK, or Germany, transformation has a specific different meaning. But what we want to say is that we cover the SECI model, that we have in our organization socialization activities, enabling people to connect one with another, that we have in our organization knowledge externalization activities and programs, enable having knowledge documented and externalized, that we have structuring of information, and that we have internalization activities where people use the knowledge, internalize it, and have their own interpretations. So this is another way to look at the knowledge management activities in organization, verifying that we cover it from the most important pieces. May I say connect and collect. Connect with other people, collect from content. The third perspective that we check ourselves is looking at the knowledge management enablers, processes, governance, culture, all technology, all the enablers that make a knowledge management program more than a digital platform, something that is rich and that is able to work. Of course, the culture is, we mentioned it also in this chapter, but it's so important that it gets its own paragraph. And of course, that the enablers, some of them are repeated in the, let's call it the standard, the regular chapters that we will find in any other management.
Okay.
What was the question?
Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, thank you. So here we are speaking about knowledge management enablers. Of course, part of them are reflected in the general enablers, in the general infrastructure that we will expect in any ISO standard. So what we see here is a balance between requirements that are general that come with every management system, with the innovation management system, with the risk management system, with the quality management system, et cetera, and specific requirements that are part of our specific KMS. And in every management system of ISO, you will find these two parts. I will even tell those who are not familiar that when we speak about ISO standards, ISO standards are management standards, and I would call them excellent standards. I'll explain why in a minute. We always find the same surroundings, the same skeleton. They are all based on the same skeleton. Its name is Annex SL or MSS. It depends when these are the two terms for speaking about the skeleton, a template that all the management standards refer to. I will show you. So the 3041, we have the knowledge-oriented requirements, and of course we have the management ISO requirements. And they are together, they are integrated into one document. So when we speak about the management requirements, we speak about, they are unified for all management standards, as I said more than once. We speak about several components. Leadership, of course, we need leadership also for other programs. Leadership is not only ours. In there, we will find paragraphs with requirements as to the leading, as to the policies, as to roles. We will find planning chapters speaking about the annual progress of checking the status, finding the future opportunities, risks, and defining objectives, having a work plan. We will find support requirements, speaking about resources, competence, documentation, and communication. We will find operational requirements, I didn't go into the details, performance evaluations requirements, speaking about monitoring, measuring, audits, managerial review, and we will find the improvement requirements always, even though we look at them as knowledge management, but everyone uses them, speaking both about corrective actions, but also about continual improvement. Now, if you want me to map these into the standard itself, this is chapter 5, leadership. Chapter 6 is planning, 7 is support, operation is 8, performance evaluation is 9, and improvement is 10. Why do I call these standards not only management standards, but excellent standards? Because we find two types of standards. You may call them upstairs and downstairs. None of us will go into an elevator unless we have it certified, unless someone checked the elevator and we are sure that it works as to the standard. So we won't fall, so it won't go, the lights won't go off, so we won't get stuck. So these are what we call downstairs requirements. These are minimal requirements. We won't go into an elevator unless it has it. When we speak about management standards, which include all of these management requirements, we define requirements that take us to an excellence level, to an upper level. They are like a compass to excellence. You can have a knowledge management activity without having these. However, having these and managing yourself according to these as knowledge managers in organizations help you in order to upgrade yourself, improve yourself again and again, taking your organization to excellence in the specific standard you are speaking about. Of course, in different standards that have management standards and specifically in knowledge management. These are the regular ones. They are important. With no leadership, we have nothing. With no performance, with no improvement, we have nothing. But we want to look at the knowledge management ones. Those are special for us. They are all gathered, they are all collated in chapter number 4. those who are unique for our system. And first of all, you have to understand the needs. That's part of chapter 4. I put it in brackets because that is yet unique with all other standards. But then we go to our part. Here we understand the why, the who, and the scope. When we speak about our part, as I show you in the concept map, we speak about knowledge development, acquiring, applying, retaining, and handling the invalid knowledge. We speak about knowledge transformation, as I showed you. We're speaking about the Secchi model. And we're speaking about the enablers, the human ones, the process ones, the technology ones, governance, and of course, culture. And we speak about the KM culture in a different chapter because it's not only an enabler, it is the thing. KM culture is precious. Speaking about nurturing the relations and the knowledge activities. Any questions before I continue to the next part? Okay, so I believe that some of you are aware, and maybe even I helped giving proportions to the different sections in the standard, but those who are very familiar with the ISO maybe had nothing new to learn here. So here we come to the second part, where what I call the treasures. And when I speak about treasures in the standard documents, you will be surprised, but we took advantage of this first body of knowledge that was written with experts from all over the world. And we had experts from, of course, the west, east of the US and the right side of the US, and from Canada, and from Europe, and from Africa, and from Asia, and from Australia. You name it, all over 5 different continents, all sat together, people from different countries, and prepared together a body of knowledge. And when we had debates, and when we didn't understand something, and we were not sure of something, we had more than one opportunity to discuss it, to debate, and to write agreed new bodies of knowledge that I think they are unique or almost unique in them being agreed by so many people for so many experts from so many places. So what are these treasures? First of all, the KM guiding principles. When we're speaking about KM, you decide what your strategy is. Now, we sat there with many KM experts, and they said we cannot write a standard without wanting to share our understandings. What is the right path to good knowledge management practices? Not what activity will you have? Will you have a lessons learned database or knowledge retention activity or an internet? We don't care about it. We want to speak about the guiding principles, our shared best experiences, best practices, how to do good KM. Of course, it cannot be a requirement. So the KM guiding principles, you will find them if you will look very carefully as part of the introduction to the standard. Of course, many people do not read the introduction because they run into the standard itself, into the requirements, what they are obligated to do, what they will be audited by. But in the introduction, there are several nice things that can help you explain knowledge management in your organization. But the most important thing, I think, it includes all the other things are not really new. Every one and one of us, because we are very experienced, can write it in their organizations. But we have here guiding principles that were shared together, 10 principles, each one and one was debated of some of the leading people of knowledge management as we know them today in 2021. I won't say that everyone agrees with every question, because with every principle, because there's always debates. But I think it's a great, short, concise body of knowledge that should be considered. Even if you're not going to certification, it's worthwhile looking at. I would stop here and say that I'm very sorry that we cannot share the standard itself with everyone here and just put it in our resources, because the ISO organization makes its living for selling these standards, and they are very strict on not sharing them, rather telling organizations to buy them. However, I will say that they are rather cheap. A standard, if you buy the standard, it will cost you something like $100, depends on where you are in the world, but that's how much it costs. And I think that many of the organizations, the people that are sitting here, the organizations can afford these $100, whether for certification and whether for learning and understanding the ideas and the principles. Any questions as to the guiding principles? I see that Jan, is it possible to make it ISO standard free to use? You're not allowed to I'm not allowed to share it, or no one is allowed to share it. It's not really free to use. We are, and I will share it in a few minutes, we are helping organizations at least understand what it is without having to buy it or before having to buy it. But if you want to certify yourself, you will have to buy it. And I'm not sure how much the free will cover, because we're still working on it, but I will share that in a few minutes. And thank you for all those who are answering questions to the others while we are speaking. And that's chapter 0.3. The second interesting body of knowledge, or treasure, if we may say, is definitions of knowledge management. This chapter was rather concise in the first version. However, in the coming, I believe, month or 2 months, really short, yet it will be in 2022, the amendment will be published, enlarging the set of definitions. We first wanted to deal with the definitions that were a must, that we understood that without them, we cannot go out. We cannot go out to air. However, for example, the knowledge management definition, we didn't feel good enough about it, but had too much debate, and there were other definitions that were still missing. So in the new version, we will find knowledge cafe, and we will find critical knowledge, and we will find an enlarged definition with notes. Notes in definitions is part of the definition for knowledge management and additional things. Very, very shortly, it's going to be published. That is chapter 3. The knowledge spectrum. The knowledge spectrum is Annex A. It speaks about the different types of, I'll explain it. Knowledge can be in many formats. It can be tacit, and it can be explicit. And I remember one of the days in Berlin, one of our debates was, what are the right 2 words, tacit and explicit, tacit and implicit and articulated? What are the right definitions? What are the right opposites? And after quarreling and debating and discussing and thinking, we understood that there are many different situations in which knowledge can be. And as Nonaka has told us, Nonaka and Hudland have shared with us 25 years ago, and even before, if I look at the first books of 1993, Nonaka and Hudland are starting to speak, knowledge is a spectrum of different states of knowledge. And every time knowledge goes from one to another, adding value to the organization, we have here knowledge management. So it's a different view of how the different states of knowledge are floating out there and how they can be used. Another annex that can be very useful, not for the requirements, but for you in organizations, is the relationships between knowledge management and all the adjacent disciplines. Because too many times people come to us and say, oh, that's information management. Oh, that is training. Oh, that is record management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we took something like 15 adjacent disciplines and tried to explain each one a short paragraph. Where's the difference between knowledge management and that discipline? So it's not a research. However, it can help you on your daily work when people ask you. And of course, it's not only a body of knowledge, it's a body of knowledge of ISO. So it is, people respect it because it has the stamp of ISO on it. So these are 4 of my favorite treasures that are, none of them are part of the requirements themselves, but each one of them is a body of knowledge that I believe is very, very precious to knowledge managers. I want to go to the last part of the lecture and speak of getting started. And I want to share with those, I spoke about a few words in the beginning of the meeting. In KMGN, we have several projects, and I call each one and one of you, A, if your country or organization is not part of KMGN, we invite you to join. B, as you all join the course and no one asks you, are you KMGN or are you not KMGN? All of these, we are handling several projects, and all of these projects, people can join them whether they are KMGN members or they are not, because we all have one objective together to implement knowledge management. And we want more prosperity, more wealth in the world through knowledge management in organizations and societies. So if we believe that ISO 3041 helps knowledge management, so it is very natural why when Asif from Pakistan, that even isn't a member of KMGN, came to me and said, okay, why don't we set a team of KMGN, of ISO 3041 implementation, a global team that will help, one will help the other, will help the third, will help the fourth, etc. So we set a team, and we have Hamid from Iran, and we have Khattab from Jordan, and we have David from France, and we have Maria from Russia, and Ian from Australia, and I can go on. And we have, of course, Ved and Vincent and additional very great people, and Mali, of course. And this implementation team is now working on tools, and I will, for a minute, stop the presentation. Oh, I don't even have to stop the presentation. And they are working on preparing toolkits. First of all, for KM beginners, we want to explain what is ISO 3041, and we want to prepare a toolkit. We just started to speak about, we didn't prepare the introduction yet. We started to speak about the toolkit that will help organizations to understand where they are and how can they start working on knowledge management in an excellent state of mind. We are thinking about tools for typical organizations with 3041, with knowledge management. And we want the Cartbox toolkit to serve them as well, but in order to see how they prepare themselves, where do they have to work on the long run, on the coming 2 years, in order to be able to be audited at all. Not how do I prepare a few weeks before to the audit. We have many audit examples. We also have them in our toolkit. But how do we help organizations understand, okay, you are great maybe on measurement, but you have to do a lot of work on leadership in order to be able to go to make some progress in this journey. And the third part, which is already much more mature itself, we are speaking about organizations that have advanced knowledge management projects, like I believe that many of you have, And they are looking already for a certification toolkit. Why? Because they have great knowledge management programs, but these programs cannot be certified because they do not speak the ISO language. So we prepared a guide and we prepared 5 templates that organizations that would read the guide, learn the ISO standard, and follow the guide with these templates can easily translate the KM Great programs into the ISO language, and therefore rather easily would be able to deserve and to be audited for the ISO 3041 certification, formal certification. So where are we standing here? We already prepared the toolkit. We have David from France and Amanda from Dubai that already started working with it and checking it. Today I had another meeting with the UAE with the steel industry, with the steel company of the UAE that are also going to start to pilot in the coming months. And we are calling each one and one of you, if you are already, you have an advanced knowledge management program and you want to pilot our tools, please contact VED, contact myself, contact one of us, and we will, Vincent, and we will be happy to share with you what we have done and to show you how you can prepare yourself to the certification. And of course, if we are calling you to ask us questions, we are calling you to tell us, oh, this guide is nice, but it's not bright enough, it's not clear enough. Please add explanations, or maybe to suggest explanations by yourself. And we, of course, call you to see where you can refine the tool, the guide, the templates themselves. So it's a joint venture, it's a joint project that helps everyone free of charge translate, bridge from the KM language to the ISO language and be enabled and to be certified enabled very, very easily with not too much sweat. We believe it's something that working a month, not 180 hours, but working a month on it, on your daily job, doing other things that you can prepare yourself if you have an advanced program. So that's for it. And of course, and here I already added the link to the toolkit itself, so you can look at it. There are all the sub toolkits inside, and those who don't find things easily because it's only on its way, not everything is prepared yet. We are on journey now, preparing things. Please speak with us, and we will be very happy to share. And now I'm stopping, and I will be happy to hear comments, to hear questions, to hear your thoughts, whoever wants to speak. Templates for mature practitioners can be found on the ISO toolkit, where I showed you the link in the last slide. Of course, we will share it with when we're sharing the presentation. We are also calling organizations that already have been certified to write their names and details. I will show it to you in a minute. You know what? I will share. I'll go and show you. Just a minute. I'll share my screen again. Where am I? I will share my screen again. Okay, now you can see the toolkit. Of course, I've sent you here. We have the implementation guide, 2-3 pages, and we have 5 templates. This is part of a toolkit, a larger toolkit, that includes also lists of organizations that we know that are already certified, Why is it important? Please add yourself when you know so. Because if, let's say, you are a municipality, so you can find that we have here already one municipality in UAE and one municipality in Israel that already have a certification. So maybe it will be easier for you to convince your company, your organization to do it. Maybe it will help you because you will contact them because you know where to look for, and you will find them in LinkedIn, and you will contact them and try to see if you want to discuss some questions with them. So that's, for example, another tool that we are preparing. We have here in our toolkit, we have, for example, known translations to different, and we have here Persian translations. Other translations we have in our, just a minute. Here we have here we have here a lot of things. We have the list of all translations that we know about. Only the Persian ones are free of charge. But these are those translations that we know about. We have the sample, we're starting on, we have this toolkit. Hamid has prepared us a list of free resources, free seminars that can be viewed, that you can learn through them. When were they given? On the internet, on the YouTube, wherever we can find them. And that's how you can learn. And we are adding more and more materials, and everyone who can share and can help us is blessed. Any additional questions regarding that?
Maria? This is John Anto. I've done a few different meeting management things. I'll send it to you, send you the link so that you can see if you want to include it in your toolkits.
Great, we would be very, very honored to add them. In the toolkit, we put all kinds of things for assessment. Let's say Patricia Eng gave us permission to put the KM's Chef's canvas from the ISO cookbook, and we're putting, and Stanosh enabled us to put some other materials. So really, we are listening. We are trying to put whatever materials that you agree to share. Of course, we always give the copyrights if there are any copyrights. So we all remember you, and we cherish those who added and contributed. Thank you, John. Any additional questions? Randir, do you want to add some ending words?
Thank you, Moria. So, folks, overall, I am more of a consumer of these standards because this is something that has helped me kind of define the implementation of it. And as I was studying from my earlier two slides, the relevance of these standards is in ensuring that we are having a proper foundation on top of which we can manage this KM program. So this is what has been essentially done. And as you go through the standards, those who have access to the standards, you will see the different elements that are there, as well as one of the key things, the one that Moria was highlighting on the jewels part, that is very critical, because what it also does is that it conceptually defines what is knowledge management, what are the critical aspects that you need to look into it. So in totality, a very well evolved set of knowledge base that you can have from a KM implementation perspective. This is what I would like to add here on top of what Moria has mentioned. And definitely the toolkit part is something that is very, very important. It's growing knowledge base further.
Thank you very much. I want to address Agus's question at 20 minutes ago. Agus asked if ISO 3041 demand is a scheduled process audit just like ISO 9001, and the answer is yes, a definite yes. And not only that, it's very similar process, but because they are both based on the same MSS, on the same skeleton, on the same template. Skeleton is the ISO word, that's why I'm using their word. So if you have an ISO 9001 system, it will be rather simple for you to understand the 3041 one. Today, as I said this morning, I had with UAA a meeting showing them so they can use it. So I had there two guys. I had Muhammad from the quality management, and I had James from the knowledge management. And together, they understood it perfectly because one had the ISO language and the 9001 and said, oh, now I understand, it's very, very easy. And the other one, and James, had the knowledge management understanding. So together, it's a perfect match. And yes, it's just the same. I don't see any other questions besides that people are asking for, yes, KM system is like an ecosystem. Thank you very much, Balaji, for the clarification. People are just looking for the standard for free. I'm so sorry that we cannot provide it, but it's really not that big deal. And we will be preparing all the materials, the introduction and the explanations. So behind the scene, you will be able to understand it, but we are not able to fully share it. So that's it for today. Next week, we go back to schedule. And next week, we will be starting to speak about, we have a new section. We have a new section. I'll show you for a minute. Here we go. We are starting a new section speaking about the area of stories. Now, we will be handling 3 sessions. One speaking about storytelling. We all know about storytelling, but this time we're going to hear from the master, from Adan, who does it for a living. We will have 2 additional meetings speaking about business storytelling, how to transfer a message, how to make it stick, and a new concept that our friend John, who is part of this team of the course, will be speaking about a new term that is story thinking, and I will be leaving you curious because it is similar, it is based on the same kernel, but it takes us somewhere a bit else. So up till then, have a great morning, a great day, a great night, and do perfect, wonderful KM for all of us. Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Moria.
Thank you, Moria.
Very interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the day.
Bye-bye.
See you next
Thank you, Moria. Thank you, Randhir.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Moria.